What's going on, guys? Will Sherlin again with Gutter Fighting Secrets. So this email comes from Rob, and he's asking about what specific skill sets should we learn to go ahead and start getting ready for an SHTF or WROL situation. Bro, first of all, great question. I'm definitely glad you asked this. It got me thinking about it. Now, second of all, for those of you who don't know, SHTF or WROL, SHTF is going to stand for shit hit the fan. WROL is going to stand for without rule of law. Any situation where stuff has gone haywire, people are crazed out, and there's just chaos and pandemonium in the streets, right? So maybe an EMP goes off from whatever rogue nation or terrorist or whatever. They manage to get their hands on some kind of crazy stuff and set off an electromagnetic pulse, thusly grid down, nothing's working, pandemonium. Or it could simply be a solar flare from the sun. It goes ahead and just fries our grid. Our electronics aren't working. The majority of our stuff don't work, something like that. Or maybe some kind of economic collapse, right? I don't ever foresee that happening, but potentially these are the type of things guys like to think about. And it's just kind of fun, to be honest, to think about it. And it's also good to be prepared for this type of stuff because you really don't know what could ever happen. Life as we know it is a very fragile thing. So my opinion, number one, all of this stuff is just kind of fun to think about. It goes back to a very primitive human nature of, wanting to prepare ahead of time, wanting to gather supplies for the winter coming. And, I think back when we all lived in caves, and even very recently, 1700s and whatnot, guys were still, 1800s, early 1900s. Our ancestors were always thinking about this stuff and always having to utilize these skill sets and prepare ahead of time because we just never know what's ahead around the corner. And that's an allegory for life. So I came up with kind of a list, and these things aren't necessarily in order. However, I kind of tried to put them a little bit into order. So without further ado, here we go. First on my list is going to be hand-to-hand combatives. Now, the reason I put that first on the list is because learning martial arts, and I'm not going to say martial arts, but hand-to-hand combatives is a great way on starting out your learning process, is because it teaches you a number of lessons. First of all, it teaches you to go ahead and seek out, engage, and destroy the enemy. That doesn't necessarily have to translate over into combatives, though. It simply means that you're learning to seek out and go to and reach out and touch and grab, something, an attainable goal, right? So learning that, and besides, to be honest with you, right? Like Rob and everyone else out there, how many times do you find yourself in a situation where you don't have your sidearm on you? I know personally in the state I live in, you can't get a concealed carry permit. A lot of other states are becoming more and more like that. And I'll talk to a lot of firearm guys out there, the tactical firearm guys, and they'll say, well, I'll never be caught without my firearm, da-da-da-da-da. I don't care if it's a state that whatever, I'm just going to break the law. More power to you, bro. I highly applaud that sentiment. However, we have to be realistic here. And especially for me, I travel a lot overseas. And when you're traveling overseas, you can't bring your fucking Glock with you. You just can't. It's not possible. So I think a lot of those guys who think like that don't really go overseas. They haven't really been in situations, where they have to face reality that you're not always going to have a sidearm. Just not always going to happen. So learning hand-to-hand combatives and how to take care of yourself with your hands is highly, a very good idea. When we look at the professionals who go to shitty countries, such as CIA guys and shit like that, and I always kind of bring it back to those guys because they're very good at this type of thing. A lot of it is, learning hand-to-hand combatives. Obviously, that second on my list is learning how to shoot, move, and communicate. And when I say learning how to shoot, move, and communicate, right? So not only learning how to shoot and move and communicate, and learning how to shoot as many different types of platforms as possible. Don't just learn an AR. Also learn the AK. They're both very common types of assault rifles that you're going to encounter. Your whole premise here behind learning many different firearms is because, number one, like I was saying with the hand-to-hand combatives, you may not be able to have a firearm on you. Maybe you lose it. Whatever happens, happens. You're not necessarily going to have one on you, but you may very well find yourself in a situation where you find one and you need to pick it up and know how to operate it. So learning as many different types of weapons platforms as you possibly can get your hands on is a highly, again, a highly good idea. So that's number 2 on my list. Number 1 was hand-to-hand combatives. And when I say hand-to-hand, also learning about how to use a knife, how to use a stick, things like that. Get your hands on a can of mace. They're not that expensive. You can pick up cheap little bottles and maybe go out, find yourself somewhere outside, discharge it. Just, get a feel what all of that stuff feels like. Start becoming, I won't say expert, but become versed in as many different types of weapons platforms as possible. Like I said, stick, knife, gun, shotgun, rifle, pistol, revolvers, as well as semi-automatics, bolt action rifles, as well as, magazine fed, gas, whatever operated. Definitely shotguns. Those are, again, very common. Learn how to, learn what it feels like to shoot slugs and buck. And, if you can get your hands on a semi-auto shotgun, learn how to operate that. Just as many different types of weapons platforms as you possibly can. Now, number 3 on my list is going to be medical skills. Medical skills, from everything else that I've learned, the 2 things that I use the most are driving and medical skills. It just seems to be the most applicable things to daily life. Now, I'm not suggesting that you need to go out and get your EMT or your paramedic or even your EMR, which is emergency first responder, which is like a step down from EMT. But if you were to go out and take a bleeding control thing, learn CPR, AED, even just all that would be more than enough. I'm not going to say more than enough, but it would be definitely what you need to get by. Bleeding control, and they definitely have good bleeding controls courses out there, such as TCCC, Tactical Combat Casualty Care. I had to go through that for the fire department as part of the active shooter thing, and I couldn't recommend it enough. And I know that it's open to civilians as well, so if you get the opportunity to go ahead and grab one of those, definitely do it. And they're giving it to military and bodyguarded guys these days too. It's just one of those things. The TCCC, Tactical Combat Casualty Care, seems to be the kind of standard in bleeding control these days. Also learning how to do like nasal airway, treat basic trauma. Look, I don't say go out and learn how to run an IV. If you want to, that's great. Like, good on you. If you want to get that into it and learn all of the ins and outs of it, awesome. The more guys trained in medical in the world, the better, honestly. But just learning how to treat yourself and then treat your buddies and your family for any drastic type of injuries. And again, it's more about stabilizing them long enough so that you can hopefully find someone of a higher skill level, of a higher medical qualification level than you, and get them to them, because we can't all go out and become doctors or paramedics. So, and even with the paramedics, they're going to go ahead and stabilize as best they can until they get to a higher level of care. But so that's number 3 on my list, is like medical skills. Number 4 would be basic firefighting, and I'm not saying you need to join a fire department, volunteer fire department, or even go through the fire academy. If you can do that, that's amazing. And again, if you were able to do volunteer EMT or volunteer firefighting, that's amazing skill sets that you can grab for yourself. Number 1, if you join a volley EMT or fire service, they're going to pay for all of your training. And it depends on how you want to do it. They'll send you to the fire academy or EMT school. You can either do like all day if you have that much time, or like a couple nights a week, but it's great training. And that actually will tie into number 4, which is radio operation. If you go ahead and start running with an EMT crew or a fire service, you're going to get basic radio operations as well. What you won't get, however, is some of the more important things to realize about communications during an SHTF situation or any potentially hostile situation is I guess you could call it OPSEC, right? Operational security. Things like, like when you're talking on a radio, what kind of radio is it? Is it one of those ham radios where you have different channels you can program? Is it one of those little Motorola, PTT press to talk things where you, it's totally unsecured? And that's something you really need to be thinking about within your group, because if it's not encrypted or anything like that, then anyone and everyone could listen in. And if you're saying stuff like, hey, Bob, meet me over at the north end of the perimeter here, and bring up that, AR-15 that we have. And, I know we have like, 2 other guys on duty right now. Well, then whoever's listening to that obviously is going to know exactly, they're going to be gathering intelligence on you. And if they want to go and take what you've got, then they're going to be ahead of the game as far as, knowing where you are, how many guys. And they may sit there and listen if they're smart for, a couple days to a week before they make any actions. They may just be collecting intelligence even for, a month if they're really smart and they've got that time or whatever, and they just want to do it quickly and efficiently and get you and be done with it and not lose any of them, or they're going to be listening and trying to gather intelligence. So OPSEC is a big thing with radio. So coming up with codes and whatnot, like meet me at the Delta section of and bring up that Alpha Romeo, something like that. You get the point, right? So coding everything in a certain way. I know when I was at One Shepherd, and I'm going back for the next semester, but that's part of what the higher-ups were doing, was kind of encoding everything. And I don't have enough training on that to really talk about it right now. I know I'll be getting that coming up here in the next semester there, but that's one thing I thought was smart. And for any of you who are out in the military, you probably already know about that. Leave a comment down below if you can. Let us know some good tips and tactics as far as encoding radio traffic and radio communications. So that's something to be aware about, like OPSEC and radios and stuff like that. And again, if you want to learn how to fix radios or go into it and how to program ham radios and that type of thing, good on you. Like, that's awesome. That's good skill sets to have. Communications, electronics in general. Again, if it was truly a grid down situation, you may have put your radios in a Faraday cage, right? Which is some type of crude way to shield it from electromagnetic pulses. You can learn all that stuff here on YouTube. It's a gold mine of information. And actually, this ties back into hand-to-hand combat when I was saying it's a good way to start, because it's a good way to start learning. And if you can learn how to learn, then you're going to really be ahead of the game, because all of this stuff is really about learning how to learn well. So if you can understand how you best learn, whether you're like an auditory learner, a visual learner, a combination of both, or whatever, and then you're going to be able to learn more efficiently. And it's all about how you absorb the information, how quickly you can absorb the information, and how efficiently. Now, the next thing on my list here, I guess that's number 5, is route planning and analysis. This is something I grabbed a bit of when I was at a couple different bodyguarding schools. It is big with bodyguarding, or close protection, executive protection, whatever analogy you want to call it, acronym. But especially if you were going to have to leave where you are and bug out somewhere, route planning and analysis, and this ties into number 6, which is land navigation and map reading, are big things. Ideally, ahead of time, you will have planned out a route, and planned out first route, secondary route, and tertiary route. 3 different routes at least is what they usually say. So that if one route is either blocked or something happens, you can go ahead and hop on that next route. If that next route, something happens, you have that tertiary route available. And you're going to need to know how to utilize a map, and then to go ahead and, get from point A to B, especially if you're on foot, you're going to need to know how to, navigate. Route planning and analysis, there's a lot that goes into it. There's advanced work that goes into it, learning how to go ahead of time and, just think it ahead, like what could happen here? What if this part of the road gets blocked? What if, is this potential ambush choke point up here? Like that type of stuff. So again, all of these things, definitely possible to learn about it on YouTube. There's plenty of videos out there. Just type it in, but be prepared to spend a good amount of time learning about it, and don't learn a little bit about it and think you're an expert. I've learned a lot about a lot of these subjects, and I'm no expert. I'm just a guy who knows a little bit about a lot of stuff. That's the way I think about it. And if you can think about it that way, that you always have something more to learn when it comes to all of these skill sets, then, that's the samurai spirit right there. The samurai, those professional types of warriors from our past, were always learning more and more and more, and they never wanted to think that they knew a lot. They always knew a little bit about a lot. So land navigation, map reading, obviously we went into that, camping and packing. So as far as the bugging out, right? Now I not the type of guy that all suggests that you should go out there, grab your bug out bag, and go into the woods. I just don't think it's a sustainable type of deal unless you truly are very versed in survival and, bushcraft and all of that stuff. Yeah, sure, maybe if you've been doing it all your life, or you know a lot about it, and you're actually able to go out and live off the land, sure, although there are definitely security concerns as far as that goes. But I suppose if you have like 8 years in the Special Forces or SEALs or whatever crazy thing, or just about that stuff, then and you had that same a good group of guys with you, yeah, sure, that might be applicable. But I do think it's very important to know camping, packing, and also a little bit about escape and evasion, living off the land, that type of thing, because you never know when you're going to have to quickly and rapidly egress from where you are and go somewhere else. And that ties in, again, to route planning and analysis, where you're ideally going to want to have a rough idea of rally points or whatever where you can go to if the situation dictates. Like if your position's being overrun, you need to grab that bug out bag or whatever and go. Well, where are you going? And does the rest of your group or your friends know where to go as well in case you get separated along the way? Do they also have these skills? And that's another thing that I failed to mention thusly far. I meant to put that on number 1, is learning how to teach. When I say learning how to learn, that's very important. But more than likely what's going to happen is you're going to start learning a lot about this stuff, and your friends and family are going to have zero interest or very little interest in learning about this stuff. And they may, like your guy friends may be like, dude, that's cool, man, like dope. Like, and then you're like, hey, well, do you want to like learn and train? No, dude, like, it's the weekend, man. Like, I'm just going to go out, dude. I'm going to hang out, just watching TV. Guys don't, guys, a lot of the time, you're either a warrior or you're not, And I don't mean to put anyone else down by saying that, but a lot of guys out there would love to think that they're just going to be able to miraculously become Rambo when shit hits the fan. I'm good, bro. I got this. Like, it's no big deal. Well, you're wrong. You never served in the military. You never trained with me. What makes you think that you're going to be able to shoot me if you communicate? What makes you think when, you're bleeding out or your buddy's bleeding out and your adrenaline's flowing like crazy, you're going to be able to know exactly what to do? What makes you think that all of a sudden you're going to know land navigation? Or all of a sudden, you're going to know how to take apart an AK when you've never even done it? What makes you think you're going to know how to communicate via radio? All of these things. Guys just go and they have this idea of themselves where they're a superhero in their mind. But when it comes down to it, they find they're not. So that's another thing, is learning how to teach, and learning how to teach rapidly. And this would actually tie into another thing on my list, which was negotiation NLP skills. And I'm kind of jumping all over, but let me just tie these in. If we can learn how basic human psychology operates, you can better learn how to deal and communicate with people in a more efficient way. So not only is negotiation huge in just dealing with everyday life, but especially negotiation and neuro-linguistic programming. That's basically learning how to communicate with somebody on a more of a subconscious level to kind of get through the BS and just get right to your point of what do you want to communicate with them, and how to best communicate with them and get them to do what you want, more efficiently. Neuro-linguistic programming, look it up if you don't know about it. It's good stuff. But so that's another good way of learning how to teach somebody, is if you can kind of like, especially if they're in a state of like semi-panic or whatever, like people more than likely would be in that situation. If you can learn how to communicate with them and cut through the BS and cut through their fog of war, so to speak, and just communicate right to them and tell them like it is right now, then you're going to be able to be very good at teaching them, especially when they're in, like I said, that mind state. So I know I'm jumping, but negotiation NLP, and again, negotiation is another great thing. Look it up. Grab some videos on YouTube. I would highly recommend, besides just grabbing videos on YouTube, read a couple of books, whether it's you buy an audiobook and you listen to it in your car on your way to work or something. My friend Scott Bolin, who again teaches this stuff, and he's very good at it. ScottBullen.com. Go check out his course on mental warfare. If you do that alone, that's going to put you above the rest of the crowd. But quick plug for Scott. Now, he teaches that stuff, and he calls it the College of Car, because he'll do this, and I know I do this as well. You know, either you just download an audiobook to your phone or whatever, or burn a freaking CD of it on your way to work in the morning, you know, if you're feeling it, plug it in, listen to some of that book, listen to a chapter, 2 chapters, however long your commute is. A leader is a reader, and a reader is a leader. And, you know, you look at guys like officers in the Army who have gone through like the whole officer school and everything. Like, those guys are constantly studying things like Sun Tzu, The Art of War, negotiation books, just crazy, you know, crazy amounts of learning that they have to do. They're all this, what I'm telling you is, you know, they do like, I think 40 years of it, and they come out very efficient. And I would highly recommend that the more you think that you might be in a potential combat leadership position, it doesn't have to be combat, but you know what I mean, survival leadership position, the more you read, the more you learn about leadership, about negotiation, about dealing with people, and about all of the rest of these warriorship subjects, the more efficient you're going to be ultimately in that position, in that role, if you ever have to fill those shoes. A reader is a leader, and read about good stuff, such as, you know, all of what we've been talking about. All right, so camping and packing, to bring it back to there. Don't just learn how to pack your bug out bag. And again, there's a plethora of videos on YouTube about bug out bags. A lot of them are crap. And I'm going to say it plain and simple. A lot of them are done by people who have no fucking idea what they're talking about. They have these woodland camouflage huge bags with freaking 3 axes and a bunch of like bullshit little survival cube rations and all this just crap. They just fill it with bullshit, and you can tell they have no idea. They've never humped a rack in their, they've never humped a ruck in their life. Half of them are out of shape and flabby. Nothing against that. It's just like, yo, like if you want to learn how to do it, learn how to do it the right way. Look up some videos. One Shepherd actually has great resources. If you go on their website, they'll tell you how to pack a ruck and put some information out there on the most efficient ways and most efficient items that you're going to need. Now, once you have gone ahead and learned about how to pack a ruck, and again, like the Marine Corps, if you look up videos from either ex-Marines or former Marines, or like, you know, just like I even know like the Marine Corps actually has training videos out there on YouTube. So anything from professional sources, generally like military type guys, that is, the military knows how to pack a ruck. You should learn from that. That's a good idea. Again, camping as well. So don't just learn how to do it. Go out there and camp. Learn what you want to bring with you, and learn what you're going to need to bring with you. It wasn't until I went and, you know, did more and more field exercises, camping outdoors, whatever, that I started really refining what I know that I'm going to need, and what I know I won't need. And, you know, like, again, what kind of rations will I need? Not to, like, make it all about rations. I know a lot of guys do. But if you're not happy with the food that you have, life sucks. Because a lot of the times also, you're really looking forward to a meal. That, you know, 12 o'clock, 1 o'clock rolls around. You've been looking forward to it. Like, you're fucking hungry. And you're like, I want that, you know, chicken quesadilla or whatever. Like, I really want it. Like, and then you get it and you're so happy with it. So that's, you know, morale boosters like that are big. You know, things like a shit kit, like, you know, not only just a roll of toilet paper, maybe a shovel to bury that shit, maybe some hand sanitizer as well. Little things like that you learn as you go. So, again, like, you know, a bedroll, right? Like, a bedroll makes all the freaking difference. Sleeping on a cold ground sucks. And that's something I had to learn the hard way, is that, you know, like, there's not, all bedrolls are not the same. Some suck. Some are great. I like the little inflatable kind. Yeah, I mean, you can pop it and everything. Maybe carry 2 with you if you're that strong. You can go ahead and, anyway, but that's the type of thing you need to flush out for yourself. And you won't know until you go ahead and do it. Bring your bag out there. Go ahead and camp for a day or two, whenever you can. Bring your family, you know, go camping. Bring your buddies out there. Bring a 6-pack or a bag or whatever, and just have fun. but learn along the way. Trade craft, blending in. This is what, number 8, I think, something like that. Big thing, right? So like, again, we were talking about the camouflage bag. Bad idea. Why do you want a camouflage bag unless you're going doing that small unit stuff in the woods where you need your bag to be camouflaged? But if you're in a city or going from, a city to the suburbs, something like that, there's really not much of a need for a military or camouflage bag. Yes, the utility of a military type bag is good. I'm not saying don't have one of those types of bags with the right pockets and everything. Those are designed for a specific reason. They're designed for that type of situation. Grab your bag and going. But to have it, crazy colors like ACU or Marine Corps pattern, whatever. Why do you need that? It's just unnecessary and it draws tons of attention to you. Again, camouflage fatigues. Why the fuck do you need camouflage fatigues? It makes you look like a nut job. Nobody trusts a guy in camouflage fatigues. Certainly not me. If I see a guy and he's, obviously not in the military and he's wearing camouflage, I stay away from him. I want no part of that. It's just crazy looking. You don't need that. Unless, again, you are going on some type of military or paramilitary operation where you're needing to camouflage yourself in the woods. Yes, sure, certainly. But if you're not doing that, why wear any type of camouflage? It's a terrible idea. Uniform stuff in general just drags and drives attention to you. Dress like a normal guy. If it's summer out, jeans and a t-shirt would be just fine. If you want to dress in more neutral colors, I totally get it. But again, with the operator style pants, shoot me first type pants, bad idea in my personal opinion. It draws attention to you. Look at this guy with the 511 pants. He's definitely got a pistol on him, and he probably knows what's up. Let me fucking shoot him, or let me, sneak up behind him and stab him and take his pistol. I don't have one and I need one. That type of deal, right? And criminals aren't dumb. They know this stuff. They've met enough undercover cops or whatever before. They've seen enough where they know what those pants mean. They're an operator of some kind. Not to be trusted, certainly to be looked over twice. You don't want anyone looking at you twice. If you can blend into the rest of the crowd and become a civilian just like everybody else, then who's to say you know anything more than anybody else? So whether that's, business casual attire, straight up business attire, jeans and a t-shirt, hoodie and a t-shirt, whatever, hoodie and jeans, or, just hoodie and khaki, whatever. Blend in. That's very important. You don't want to stick out at all. You want to go with the herd and blend in. More tradecraft stuff would be like surveillance and surveillance detection. Now, I've had a couple of guys at this point ask me where they can go to get surveillance training. This is, to be honest with you, something I'm not prepared to talk too much about. I know, Zach, you had asked me, and I know that you're actually in private security and whatnot. So we had kind of a back and forth. And I'm not going to bring too much of your business out there, bro. But guys like you, I'm always glad to, go back and forth with about what I think. But for the most part, and there's a reason why people get leery about giving surveillance training to civilians, is because it's basically how you're going to go ahead and scope something out. And I kind of got off on a separate tangent there, but what I mean by that is it's hard to grab surveillance training, but if you go on YouTube, you can piece stuff together. And again, if you really want to train in that stuff, there are places available out there for you to learn that stuff. Personally, if you grab a little bit of it, a little bit's going to take you a long way. You don't have to learn how to do, multi-vehicle stuff and communicate with earpieces and all that. It is good. Like, if you're worried about countering that surveillance, you have to learn how to do surveillance really first to be efficient at it. But to know a little bit about it is a good idea. How to lose a tail would be a great thing to learn how to do. There's definitely ways to do it, and then there's ways not to do it. But something as simple as that, which would be, in my opinion, a counter-surveillance technique, would be good. Because, again, criminals have to surveil you in a crude manner, typically in a crude manner, before they take any hostile action on you. So learning what the telltale signs are of their surveillance upon you, and generally speaking, if they have little experience, they're not going to be very good at it, and they're going to give themselves away. which is, again, why people don't like to train civilians on surveillance, is because they don't want criminals to be good at it. It's just not a good idea. So, but with that in mind, if you can learn, some basic counter-surveillance or anti-surveillance stuff, just to learn what it's going to feel like and look like when somebody's got you under surveillance, and what to do from there, not to panic and to maintain a cool head, that's what you need to do. So that type of stuff. Other tradecraft techniques could be like, the cool James Bond stuff, how to communicate on the sly with your buddies or with whoever's in your group or whatever, that type of stuff. And the last thing on my list, honestly, was negotiation NLP. Pardon me. We touched on that, and I think that dealing with people is the most important thing. I did another video way back in the day. One of my first videos was about learning how to deal with people and whatnot. And if you can learn that, you're going to be way ahead of the game. Because honestly, most of the time, what it boils down to is just dealing with other people, human to human, and interacting with them in a positive manner, and sharing those good vibes. And even if the vibes are not good, knowing how to smooth things over so it doesn't turn violent or something like that. Those are a few things on my list there. If I have neglected anything, I apologize. I know I'm at 30 minutes right now. You guys probably don't want to listen to me ramble anymore. So with all that in mind, if I've left something out, throw it in the comments below. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up. Also, subscribe. So the best way, honestly, right now to thank me for, if you like my information, is just subscribe. I don't ask anything of you other than that. Another thing is, if you want a good hand-to-hand combatives video, Gutter Fighting Secrets at gutterfightingsecrets.com is a great intro into hand-to-hand combatives. Another thing that you can go ahead and do if you like this type of information and learning about how tradecraft works and stuff like that is go to www.protriptips.com, order a copy of the DVDs, or we also have USB thumb drives available. Plug it right into your computer. All 8 freaking hours of material, awesome material, is going to be available for you. So quick couple of plugs for my products out there, but if you go ahead and subscribe, if nothing else, this is all free content here and free information for you guys. I put it out there because I love talking about it. Rob, thanks for the email, bro. Obviously, I've taken a quick question from you and turned it into 30+ minutes of just rambling, and I hope I didn't bore you too much. So with all that in mind, guys, please remember that you are your first and last line of defense. Thank you for your time. Thanks for watching, and I'm going to catch you all in the next video. Cheers, guys.